Welcome to Secure Girl Podcast. I am your host, Kim Velez, a licensed mental health therapist and a conscious life and success coach. And I am absolutely obsessed with helping amazing women like you to never ever have to settle for less than she deserves and to never ever feel unloved or not good enough again. This is literally my mission on the planet Earth. So Secure Girl Podcast is about the real deal of how to become the best version of you. I cover all spiritual and practical techniques to help you overcome your mindset, beliefs, and habits that are stopping you from getting everything you want. On Secure Girl Podcast, we are talking about the real truth, ladies. This is not a place to run and hide. This is a place to really understand and have the hard conversations of what it takes to really manifest and love yourself and get the life that you want. So each week I deliver love and truth bombs of everything you need to know, including mindset, self-love, and manifestations, so that you can blossom into the confident, amazing, successful, loved, empowered, unstoppable, and absolute best secure girl version of you. And I am your host, Kim Velez, and just a disclaimer, I do tend to swear. So if that offends you, then I highly suggest that you click off now. If it doesn't offend you, then great, my loves. Just make sure if you have little ones around that you have some headphones on so that they don't hear it. All right, it is that time again. It's time to understand what this whole fucking game is about when it comes to manifesting the life of your dreams. So we're going to talk more about what happens when you react to your 3D. And this is important because, by the way, we're human. And as humans, we have emotions. And as you are recreating your self-concept and dealing with external circumstances that are not shifting in your favor yet, or you are seeing it shift in your favor, but then you see it kind of show up with some yucky shit, whether it's manifesting your SP, new love, money, like whatever, you have to understand sometimes you're going to be triggered and you will react to the 3D. Now, what does that mean, right? Well, it means that the trigger, the emotion that you feel, and the story you go to in your mind as soon as you're triggered by this external event is what will cause you to react. And that is all based off your old programming. That is based off your old of self. And until you have fully assumed the new concept of self, which anyone who's listening to this podcast probably hasn't, to be honest. I haven't fully either. Now, I'm there probably 80% of the way, but when it comes to my SP, this is my work, right? This is what all of our fucking work is overcoming the old fucking programming. So when you're revaluing yourself and changing your self-concept and you're changing your story of your person, as you're going through this process, you're going to have these hiccups. You're going to have these moments in your 3D where your person might be a fucking asshole, or they say something that feels hurtful, or you're assuming something, or there's some kind of behavior, or the money doesn't pile up in one day. And when this happens, you're going to see this external event or hear the external event. And then all of a sudden, your old programming will kick back in if you're triggered, and you will think something negative about you and about the situation, which is you going back to old concept of self and you going back to the old programming of the story of your old reality where you did not have what you want. So let's talk about this shit because this is important. So first and foremost, you can't fuck up your manifestation when you react to the 3D. So just throw that worry right out the fucking window. Your simple job, I guess you would say, in regards to when this happens, what is the best move for me to make so that I keep moving forward in reprogramming myself so that that continues to be reflected back to me in my 3D? Well, that is you catch it and you get the fuck out of it as fast as you can. So sometimes, depending where you're at in this process, you being in that old concept of self because you were emotionally triggered and it took you back to that rejected state. It took you back to the state of this isn't working, I'm not getting what I want, that fear-based state, that anxiety state. All of those states are old programming. It's the old concept of self. And you go right back to the old story and you're attached to the perspective and you're believing that this is the truth. So when that happens, it's just you going back in that reality. So you want to get the fuck out of that reality as fast as you can. Now, like I said, where you're at in this process depends on the length of time you dwell back in the old reality. Some people who are just starting out, they may stay stuck in that old reality for a couple days before they get sick of feeling that way, and then they get out of that victim mindset. That is the information that you're aware of what is actually going on in your subconscious mind with all these thoughts that you don't even know you're thinking. So this is why repetition is so important. This is why thinking from the end, living from the end, always creating a story that's favorable for you, always being aware as much as you possibly can. And some people, it doesn't matter if you started right away. You may say, fuck that, I don't like the way this feels, and you get out of there really quickly. But it doesn't matter. You're going to be where you're going to be. I just want you to have this information so you're aware of it so you can help yourself to move out of it more quickly. Now, why do we react? Well, we react because, again, it's old programming. So we have this external event that happens and it makes us feel an emotional trigger. So when we feel this emotional trigger, all it's doing is taking us back to our concept of self or the story where we're not getting what we want. So it's a really quick process. We assume something, not in our favor, and we assume we're not getting what we want, and we assume that this means not good news for us. So that's why we feel like shit. So when you're triggered, you have to understand, my old programming is being triggered because my new programming, I haven't lived this new version of myself long enough and consistently enough to have this be my natural way of being. So until I do that, when I feel this trigger, I want to recognize it in my body and catch it when I start feeling sad or like shit or rejected or not good enough or anxious, fear-based, all those yucky things. And then I have to remind myself of two things. I have to remind myself that I'm the operant power. So everyone is you pushed out. So whatever I keep thinking on and focusing in my mind, I'm continuously pushing out. It has to be reflected back to me. So in essence, there is no free will from anyone in my reality because my contents of my mind create my reality. So then you also have to remind yourself of who you are, the version you want to be, the version that is confident, secure, loved, wanted, valued, worthy, and good enough to be in a relationship, good enough to have, thousands of dollars in her life every day. So whatever it is that you want, you have to shift and recognize that quickly and then move back into that state. Now, we're human, so you're going to have human moments because this is never about I can never feel an emotion that's not favorable or I can never go in that victim consciousness, but you need to get the fuck out of it. The victim consciousness is what is dangerous. It's not the feelings. Now, the feelings are usually triggered because of the victim consciousness, right? That victim mindset that I have no power, I'm not the operant power, that there's something greater outside of me that is in control of things and I have no control in the story of my life. I have no control in creating my reality, that these people are separate from me, so I'm not going to manifest what I want. So that is victim consciousness. That is victim mindset. It's forgetting your whole awakening to the power within you. The other, yucky concept of self, right, is we go back into what we're used to being rejected in love, being broke, feeling, not good enough to have this money. So that was your natural dwelling for quite a while. So you will revert back to those old states every so often. Again, the key here is to get out of it as fast as you can. So we have emotions because we're human. And because I say this all the time because people really need to understand that we fucking have 70,000 thoughts running through our mind every fucking day. And we can't manage them. We cannot manage 70,000 thoughts. There is no human way to do it. So what does that mean? Well, that means that as you're washing dishes or working, you have a subconscious program that's running in the background that you're probably not aware of. And what happens is those thoughts that you're not aware of is what is in your subconscious mind and keeps being projected out and then being reflected back to you. So the way that we understand this is when you look at your reality and you like what you like or you don't like certain things, then you understand I either have good natural assumptions that are favorable to me if I like this part of my reality, or I have natural assumptions that are not favorable to me if I don't like this part of my reality. So that you can recognize it and then shift into the reality and the concept of self that is favorable for you. So you're going to have these experiences, and that's okay because it's part of this whole game of this inner transformational work. And what I want you to do is I want you to understand that when you have them, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't sit here and affirm that you fucked up everything and da-da-da-da, because you can fuck nothing up. You're the creator of your reality. All you're doing is just delaying it, manifesting in faster, or, delaying it a little bit, right? And we don't know by how much. It could be delayed a minute, it could be delayed a day, it could be delayed a month. Like, we honestly don't know. Nobody is able to understand that. So don't fucking worry about it, because the power that you have is where you're choosing to focus your thoughts, and that is what is being pushed out of your subconscious mind, projected onto your life of screen, which is then reflected back to you. So all you want to do is just master your mind as much as you possibly can. And this is, again, why affirming, repetition, and persistence is key, because people will start changing their story within like a week or two, and they see a little bit of movement and then it kind of stalls, and then they're like, what the fuck? I thought this was working. And I'm like, oh my God, homie, like, you just changed it. You just changed your story. Like, you just started focusing on your mental diet, a couple weeks ago, and they forget that the people in their life are only reflecting back to them what's going on inside of them. So this is where you have to really remind yourself of that and not react to it and just keep persisting. Just look at it as information. So I had an emotional reaction, when was it? Friday. So what's today? Well, today is Sunday when I'm recording this, but Friday I had a bit of an emotional reaction because of something that my SP had said to me. And it bothered me because I'm human, and I was triggered, and I went right back into my old concept of self, and I fucking felt it, right? Like, I felt it instantly, where I felt like, the girl who doesn't get what the fuck she wants, and that she's being rejected and all this bullshit. And so in that process, I was sharing about it in my paid Facebook group. In that process, it was actually good, because when he was saying what he was saying, I was up in my head affirming something of the opposite. And then because the state I was in, I didn't even pay attention to the rest of the conversation. And this is key, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I kept just focusing on the one part of the conversation that I didn't fucking like, because this is what we do, right? Our minds go to what we don't like rather than what we like, because it's looking at information to protect us somehow. So we're always going to be drawn to what we perceive as negative and kind of filter out the positive, especially, well, actually, not especially, but when and this is why it does this, when you're in the concept of self, that's not favorable. So when he affirmed that, or when he said some bullshit to me, I was triggered. And I went back into the old concept of self. And so because I was in that state, I only paid attention to what I didn't like and ignored the rest of the conversation. Now, I was affirming the story in my head of what I wanted to experience, but I felt like shit. Like, I felt my state shift instantly, right? So then, thank goodness, the FedEx guy came and interrupted our conversation, and then I left his office. And then I was upset, and then I had to go get my lashes done, which was the best thing ever, because and my eyebrows, because I was sequestered, to these ladies to do my brows and lashes for 2 fucking hours, basically. So in that time period, I could feel it. I still was in the state, not when I was getting my lashes done, when I was driving there. And then I said, fuck this. Go to your concept of self. You know who the fuck you are. Affirm the woman who has everything she wants. Affirm the woman who is, with him the way that she wants to be, and snap out of this shit, right? So then I went and got my lashes done. Now, because I shifted back into the state of what I prefer, which is the concept of self that's, favorable, what happened was when I replayed that conversation in my mind from that state, I had a different perspective of it. So then I was able to hear some really fun things with everyone as you pushed out that actually was in my favor. Because see, I couldn't hear that before because I was stuck in the old concept of self. So what I heard was a couple things. So last week I said for fun, because I always test little things for fun when I'm manifesting with him as well as the big things. And I said, you know what? He used to call me my baby, and I used to love that, right? So I affirmed like 2 or 3 times that he calls me his baby, that he says my baby. And then I went into a scene where there was a moment I actually had with him back, oh my God, probably like a year ago, where he said that to me. So I just replayed that scene in my mind and how I felt in that moment. Now, I have been on and off with this man. In January, it'll be 2 years. And the last time this man has, like, he says babe all the time. Like, that's just, like, if he met you, he didn't even know you, he would call you babe. Like, he calls everybody babe. But baby is something different. So I know it sounds silly, but we all have our little pet little names with each other. So like, the last time this man has called me his baby, or he'll say my baby, was like a year ago. Probably more. I think literally more. I'm thinking like July of last year. So that's a long fucking time. And all of a sudden, I just had this random thought where I was like, oh my God, I just want to manifest that. That'll be fun, right? Because I wasn't attached to it. It wasn't like a big deal. So I only affirmed it 2 or 3 times because I don't have an opposing story about it. And then I visualized the last time he called me that in my mind and reconnected to how I felt in that moment being that girl. So this is what happened, not even a week later. So when I was with him the other day and we were having this conversation about lots of things, he called me baby, like literally like 8 times. Like, it was the funniest thing. He's never, even in the past when he would call me like his baby or something, he would never, it would be like a little bit here and there, but literally, I think he said it to me like 8 times, 8 times in like less than 10 minutes. So it was actually really funny. He was like, yes, baby. What baby? What'd you say, baby? Oh, my baby. Like, this is what he was saying to me. And I didn't even fucking pick up on it that I fucking manifested that. And that was everyone as you pushed out and how fast it fucking manifested. And then there was something else in his conversation that he said about saying that he would love to be in a committed relationship with the right person, because for the last, now when I first met him, he was definitely open to a relationship, but because I manifested a different version of him, about 5 months in, he started saying that he didn't want a relationship. And that's literally what I've heard for like the last year and a half or something. So those 2 things I was able to pick up on in that conversation and understand, okay, my thoughts are being reflected. See, this is what I do. This is the state I like to remain in. This is how my mind works when I'm in these states where I'm picking up on how shit is working in my favor, that what I'm persisting in the story is conforming through him. And you can't do that really when you're in the concept of self, that you're not getting what you want, because we are only going to focus on the evidence to support that concept of self. So I'm sharing this with you ladies because I love to share not only what I know to be true, but as I'm going through it, I like to share with you like my learning moment about myself and the process, so you can be more aware of it as well and recognize it when it's happening. So after that, I felt a little bit better, right? Like, I got myself in the concept of self. I kept reaffirming the story that I wanted. I was able to see, fuck man, he manifested quick for me with this baby comment. And this is why testing these little things are so fun, because what they do is they show you how quickly we manifest when there's no opposing story. So me manifesting that experience with him, and it also reinforces everyone as you pushed out, me manifesting that experience from him was literally less than a week. And the only reason why our things don't come in that fast is because we have so many like opposing thoughts against it. So what you have to do is you just stay persistent and you just get back on the fucking horse, so to speak, and you just keep getting in the concept of self, where you're the woman who has everything. You're worthy, deserving of being in a loving, committed relationship. You are the chosen one. You are the one that's in the loving, committed relationship. So then I got myself, like, I just kept persisting in my story, and I could feel like emotionally, I was still kind of, listen, I'm going through some personal shit, like health stuff, nothing major, but whatever. I don't care if guys are listening, but I got some stuff going on with my monthly that I don't know what is going on with it, but it's, I've had it for a couple weeks this month on and off. So it's been kind of weird. So I think my hormones definitely are a little out of whack. And I'm not just saying that to like make excuses, but I'm really not an emotional person. So like for me to feel sad is like fucking kind of rare. But anyways, so whatever, I allowed myself to feel it. But then, I just kept affirming and keeping my mental diet on point because I'm like, that's not what I want to create. That's not going to help me to stay stuck in the victim consciousness. So you move out of it fast, you're able to see things differently, and then you just keep persisting in the story that you want. So the other thing is that, you have to remember that there's two things to do when you're feeling that way, when you have a 3D moment and you reacted to it, is to go in your mind. This is what this whole game is about, is that it's just information. Like that information that day taught me two things. One is that I still have to keep persisting in my story because it hasn't hardened into fact yet. Like he's only reflecting to me what's going on inside of me. So it was annoying because, we have those moments where we're like, when do we get it? When do we override the old programming finally, where we're seeing more consistent moving parts, right? Like that's what we're all trying to get here. We want to overcome this internal struggle so that we don't have to keep going through this drama in relationships. So that can get annoying sometimes, and I understand that. And sometimes clients will come to me and it's like, the only answer I can give you is that you just have to fucking persist. Like it is annoying sometimes, it is frustrating, but it's like, it's just information to remind you that you still have a story you need to override. That is the old programming that is still dominant if that's the results you're getting. So you just keep affirming, you just keep doing what the fuck you were doing, because at some point it's going to fucking break. At some point, your fucking whole 3D is gonna fucking, shift and conform to what the fuck you want. This is why you can't give up, And when I say give up, like whether you decide to let go or fucking, focus on them or affirm in a general sense about love or money, or just focus on your concept of self, it doesn't matter. All ways will work, but you still, you just have to keep your mental diet on point always, because when they come back in or when they do conform, you're going to fuck it all up if you haven't learned to master your mind. So, this is the whole game. This is the uncomfortable part of this process, is that it's really just information that we have to keep changing ourselves, that we can't go outside of us and say, hey, babe, you need to fucking change so I feel better, right? We have to keep working on ourselves and changing the story, persisting until it hardens into fucking fact. Like there is just no other way. And so the ways that help me shift out the fastest are this, and I wanted to share this, and I talk about this all the time, but I'm just like, re-emphasizing it. But two things is you have to think from the end. Like your thoughts always have to be that this is worked out, I'm getting what I want, I'm the operant power, I'm fucking loved, worthy, and value. Whatever you need to say to make you fucking feel better in that moment, all of the above, then you fucking reaffirm that shit. And then you need to have the inner conversations with your person. When I see my person show up in my mind and he's like telling me what I want to hear and I'm having these beautiful moments with him, it feels good. I'm living in the end. And that's what I want. That's the version of him that I want. So, either just affirm and naturally pull up that imagery, or while you're affirming, you can also just pull up, your end scene real quick if you want to, and just revel in that beautiful end scene of the version that you have, so you feel connected to him, whichever way you prefer. Both ways are okay, right? Like they both work. I like to do both because it's just like a double whammy. But that's the way you pull yourself out of it quickly. And then you need to saturate your mind. Like you need to saturate your mind, whether it's listening to success stories like Amanda from Create Your Future, Agnes Vivarelli have a shit ton of success stories. I don't really do the success story thing. I have lots of clients that have them. They usually post it on my Facebook group. I haven't honestly taken the time to reach out to people and say, hey, do you want to come back and do this? Now, I do have people in my groups that are already had success. I'm asking them to create testimonials that they can post in my group, but I don't really put them on YouTube yet because honestly, I don't have the time, but I'm hiring help next week, so maybe that'll come soon. I'm not sure. But so if you need that to support you, then go listen to their success stories, understand if these fucking people can do it, I certainly can too. Like, there's nothing magical about anyone else that, you don't have the same tools to be able to do and manifest what you want. I mean, you have everything inside of you that you need, which is your fucking mind. So this is why it's important to continuously saturate your mind with things that keep you moving in that direction or reminding you of your power. Whether it's listening to my YouTubes, listening to whoever, the podcast, you replay shit a million times. So that you keep yourself on point. You don't let your mind wander, and then you've spent days and weeks in an old concept of self, in an old reality, affirming a story that you don't want to fucking create for yourself. So, listen, this is the game. This is the game. This is the game. It is the biggest thing you'll ever overcome in your life. This is my biggest thing I'm overcoming that I've ever experienced in my life. It is not an easy process. It's not a hard process, but it's not an easy process. It takes diligence and effort and commitment every single day. And it's learning to not rely and try to manipulate and force something on the outside. And it's really just learning how to go within and fucking reaffirm and just change your story and manipulate and rearrange your thoughts in your mind. And it's a different experience because we're not used to that. We're used to always doing something on the outside to make us feel better. Whether it's forcing, someone to say something so we feel better, whether it's doing an action so that we feel better. But all of this is about nothing on the outside and everything on the inside. And this is why it gets to be uncomfortable at sometimes, because this is only about us. They're only reflecting us. I'm going to say it again. They are only reflecting us. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes too, because again, I'm human and it's like, fuck, man, I just want this shit to be done and over with too. We all do. But you just got to keep fucking persisting. There is just no other way. That's the only way I'm going to get the outcome that I want. Same for you. So in that moment, you're actually developing the most powerful skill set you'll ever have in your fucking life, which is obviously the power of your mind, but also understanding that out of all the things that you could do to try to attempt to get the outcome you want, going within your mind and focusing on the story of the end that you want, the version of the person you want to experience, the version of you that's having that experience, is the most effective, sustainable, powerful fucking skill set tool you will ever come across in your life. And it requires the least amount of action and effort on your fucking part. Even though it may not feel like it in this process, it really is, because all you're doing is changing your thoughts. It really is that fucking simple. Not so easy, but it's simple. So when you react to the 3D, just give yourself a break. You didn't fuck anything up. Take a deep breath and then do everything you need to do to get back on the horse. And then know and trust it's going to be okay. Know and trust that you're going to get your end result. Now, some people, email me and they're like, I just want to give up. I'm tired of the way I feel. This fucking sucks. Nothing's shifting. It's not shifting fast enough. But again, I'm like, okay, you just changed the story. If they're only reflecting you, it just means you haven't shifted the dominant story enough, So why are you going to give up? How is that going to benefit you? In the moment, it's going to get you out of the uncomfortability the quickest. But at the end of the day, when they come back into your life and someone else does too, when you manifest new love, guess what's going to happen? You're going to recreate the same experience. It's the same thing with money. If you go back to the old story of being broke and not having enough, right? Then what are you going to keep experiencing? So it's like, why are you not persisting in the new story? That's the only option, is just to fucking persist. And this is where you really need to test everyone as you pushed out with little things, and then focus when they happen and remind yourself how powerful you are, and that the only reason why it may be taking a little bit longer to get the SP to conform fully and say, you're the love of my life, I'm committing to you now, is just because you have more opposing thoughts about who you are in relation to them and how they're showing up. And you just understand that and be like, okay, so I'll just keep persisting. It means I just have more reaffirming to do, and trust and know that at some point, I'm going to fucking crack this code. At some point, I'm pushing the new story out so much that it's all going to come flooding in. And that's when the SP is going to come back just fucking amazing and beautiful. And I'm already seeing shifts with my guy. Like, I really have, like, in the last, 3 weeks now, like, I really see the other version of him showing up. And I was actually recognizing that today, where I've been affirming a lot that I'm a priority, because that's always been an issue for me in relationships. And that was actually reflected back to me recently with my reality about a month ago. And I started affirming that I'm a priority. I'm always a priority, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'll kid you not, like, this man, anything I ask him to do, he like comes right over and does it. If I need help with something, like anything with the office, he set everything up with the office, like anything that I needed support with. If I wanted to involve him, he's there, he gets back to me right away, he comes over, he finds a solution for me. So I have really seen him, you know, show up in a way which is how he used to be with me when we first were together. So that felt really nice. Even though he's not fully conformed yet, I'm seeing the change in him. And even with him staying the night at my house, like, you know, this was an issue for us a long time ago. It was not for us, for me, because it was my fucking story that I held. And that was just a weird experience too, of how that manifested and unfolded. And it was so fast and simple. And I simply only affirmed once or twice that he's spending the night with me every night. And that I, you know, envisioned him in my mind real quick, like, you know, snuggling with me. And within less than 2 weeks, he randomly texts me about staying the night at my house. So is it every night? No, but I'm going to keep persisting in the fucking story because it's working. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, this is how sometimes it works for people, is that you start seeing what you're affirming manifest in. And I want you to start focusing on that rather than what hasn't come in yet. Because this is evidence to you that the contents of your mind about your SP is reflecting back that you're pushing it out. He's getting it. She's getting it. They're getting the fucking message. You just have to keep persisting until it's the full message. So I'm still persisting. I don't care what he said to me the other day that triggered me. It means nothing. It's 3D. It's old news. It's a shadow. It's an illusion. It's an illusion because I'm creating a new version of him in a new reality where I get what I want. So it doesn't really matter what he said in that moment unless I keep focusing on it and reaffirming that story, then I would keep manifesting that version. So I chose not to focus on that, and I was able to focus on the part of him that was showing up in the 3D that's proof to me of everyone as you pushed out in the way that I want. See, we have no problem focusing on everyone as you pushed out when it's not favorable, because we know we've had all these negative thoughts about them for so long, and negative thoughts about us in regards to them and what's happening. And then when we see it manifest, we're like, oh my God, this isn't working. It's not working. And it's like, well, no, it is working. It's everyone as you pushed out. It's just what you don't want to fucking experience, right? So you have to train your mind to focus too. It's not accepting breadcrumbs, because I don't accept breadcrumbs. And I'm just doing my thing. Like, he's the one that is coming over to me more than I'm coming over to him. Like, I haven't gone to him for like a week. Like, I just let him come because I'm not trying to force anything. I don't have a story that he needs to chase me. You know, it's just for me, I'm allowing it. I'm letting it naturally unfold because I know I don't have to take any action on the outside. I don't have to. There's no need for me because I'm creating the story in my mind. And because I'm creating that story in my mind, it's pushing out, it's pushing out, it's pushing out. He will come back to me. He will come to me because he will feel compelled, because that's the reality that I'm manifesting, the version of him. So I don't feel the need to go and try to spend more time with him or initiate conversations and things like that. Now, if I want to text him, I will. If I have a question about something, I have no problem texting him. He'll fucking get back to me right away. But I just don't need to do that. So that's where I'm at. You got to do what feels right for you. But this is the whole thing about the power of your mind, is that when you're persisting in a story, it's going to come to you. It manifests in your experience. You don't have to go get the manifestation. Like, the version of them will come in. So, listen, whether you text someone or you wait for them to text you, that's your prerogative. Just pay attention to your story about it. Like, I personally, I don't need to make movement. He's making the movement. And if I feel like I need to make a movement or something, like, I don't know, if I feel like inspired that I need to have a conversation with him about something, or I don't fucking know, go next door and say hi, I will. Like, I don't care. I'm not sitting here like, nope, he has to chase me. Nope, nope, nope. He needs to do this. I'm not doing that, because that's stupid. I know he'll pursue me. He's pursued me before. I like to be pursued. It's fun. So that's the reality I like to create. So, and he is pursuing. Not in I don't want to reaffirm the story. He's pursuing me in a different way, but we're working on, I'll get the pursuing that I like. Because that's who we are. We are the operant power. There's nothing outside of us. They're not separate from us. So this is where, you just have to understand that the 3D means nothing, which is why circumstances don't mean anything, because we've created these circumstances with the thoughts that we've had. So the way you create a different circumstance is to persist in the thoughts of what you want to have, and you just stick it out and reaffirm until it manifests into your reality. So I had an option on Friday where I could have just said, like, listen, my old self wanted to be like, fuck this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, let me just be done with him and tell him, like, you know what? You stay in your fucking office, I'll stay in mine, and we don't got to bother each other and have a good fucking life. Like, that's who I used to be, where I'd cut them out quick. And the only reason why I felt that way was because my resistance came up again, where it was uncomfortable, and I'm like, fuck, this is my old story, and I went back to the old concept of self, and I had to pull myself back out. So, like, this is what I'm saying, is that we will use them as the target of, I don't like the way I feel on the inside, and they're the one causing it, even though that's not true. Our minds, we don't like negative emotion, so our mind will show you, well, this is what's causing your negative emotion, so if you just let them go and get them out of your life, then you won't feel this negative emotion, right? But the problem is, it's not them, it's us. It's the story we have. It's our internal transformation that's causing the resistance. It's causing the uncomfortability, because we're shifting into a new reality. We're shifting into a new self-identity, and we haven't convinced ourselves enough yet that this is who we naturally are, and this is naturally our life, because it hasn't manifested fully. If it did, then we'd be living it every day, and then we'd be affirming other things. So this is what you go through until, they're conforming, and you're feeling more and more of your concept of self, of you having everything that you want. And then that becomes your new dominant story. And once that you'll just see it, like, your life will unfold that way, right? And I already see it. Like, I see with him coming back in August, like, even the shifts of him setting up me getting the office next to him, like, you got to understand how everyone as you pushed out works. So I was affirming, I need my new office again, right? Now, he and I have always been entangled with an office somehow. And ever since I've known him, he's always tried to get me, like, to get an office next to him, fucking close, even was wanting me to share his office with him at one time. So, like, this is just a story we've had. And I never manifested that, by the way. Like, I wasn't ever affirming in the past when all of this started showing up quite a while ago about the office. So it was his idea, his thought. But once he brought it up to me, it kind of always stuck in my head. So back in November of last year, when I stopped my office, like when I stopped my lease and I moved out on November 30th, I just started working from home. And he and I were going to go half on this other office, blah, blah, blah. And when I ended things with him in February of this year. So because I did that, I didn't want to even be entangled, with an office with him. So that had fallen through. So then when he manifested back in my life in August of this year, I didn't say anything about the office. And then what was it, September? Yeah, September, October, I started thinking, fuck, I would like to get a new office because my business was picking up. I was honestly sick and tired of working at home. I want like a space I can go to has all my YouTube stuff, my podcast stuff. Like, it's just my space. Because, you know, when you just work from home all the time, it's nice. But like, I don't know, everything's mixed up. Like, work and home is mixed up, where now I 95% only do the work from my office, which is better for me, so I can actually have a break when I'm actually home, which I love doing my work, but like I need a break too sometimes, right? So anyways, so I was just affirming that, like, oh, I need an office. And I looked a little bit online, and he had said, you know, I don't know, he brought it up or something, not about sharing next to him, but he was like, oh, are you going to get an office? I said, yeah, I need one. I would like one. I'm just trying to find one that's big enough. And that was kind of it. And then he reached out to me like a week or so later, maybe 2 weeks later, I can't even remember now, and was like, yo, I think the office, first when I got back in his life, he showed me another office because he has an office and he was going to rent another office. And he was like, do you want to rent some of this space out? But I didn't like the new office space. And I was like, no, that's not going to work for me. I need my own shit. I like my privacy because I work with clients. And then that was it. So then a couple weeks ago, right, he reached out to me and said, I'm going to look, there's another spot open right next door to me. He's like, I'm going to look at it. If I don't want it, then I think you need to come get it. And so he looked at it. He decided he didn't want it. And then he was like, you need to come see it. And he set it all up. And then I signed the lease like 2 days later. And now I'm in the fucking office next door to him. So the point of the story is this. Everyone is you pushed out. So I was like, I need this office for me, right? Had nothing to do with him. But I also have, right, for a long time been working on my concept of self, and I changed my story about him, knowing when I manifested him back in my life in August that I needed to, because I knew everyone is you pushed out, and I was ready to fucking, you know, break this fucking shit within me so I can get what the fuck I want, and I'm choosing to do it with him. So because of this new story that I'm having, he got the idea in his mind that this is acceptable, that he would be A-okay with me literally on the other side of the fucking wall from him, and that we're going to be seeing each other, you know, 5 to 6 days a week just being at the office. So that was an idea he had to be okay with and come up with on his own. I didn't ask him. And this is what I'm saying, like, even though some people may be like, oh, well, that's not a big deal. You're right. It's not a huge deal. It's not like he's like, oh my God, I'm head over heels in love with you. Be my girl, right? But it's understanding that it's moving in the direction, because this means that he's okay with me this close to him in his life. And so that means that he's already starting to conform of me being in his life more and more because of the story that I've been pushing out. Then I started getting feedback from him where he starts being really supportive of me back like he used to be in my business, and just like my cheerleader, and saying really sweet things to me and uplifting things. He used to be like that with me all the time. I started getting more of that. Then I started getting the priority where, you know, he had the business line and then he had the personal line, or he had 2 phones. And he was like, yo, this is the number you're going to be calling me at. I'm getting rid of the second phone. I don't really need it anymore. And then the number he gave me, the new number, he reads has read receipts, which who the fuck does that? So I know it sounds silly, but it's like these things are indicator of him changing internally, because, right, the game player dude, the old version, would have left me at the old phone number where there's no read receipt, and I have no idea when this man's getting my messages. And the version I created of him way back then, he would sometimes take hours to fucking reply to me because, right, that's the version I created. This version, I can fucking tell when he reads the fucking thing because he shows it, and then he fucking gets back to me like immediately. So it's just a different version of him coming in. Is it the version of him that I had initially in the beginning? No. But we're well on our way because he's moving away from the old version, the yucky version I had manifested. So this is what you need to train your mind with to start taking notice when shit is being reflected back to you in your 3D. When you're starting to see the contents of the story that you're reaffirming being reflected back to you by the people that you want, and look for it as evidence that, okay, it's coming together, it's coming together, it's coming together. I'm just going to keep persisting. And knowing throughout this process, there may be moments that you react to your 3D, and that's okay. Like when I reacted to mine on Friday, did it stop anything? No. I got right back on the fucking bandwagon and just persisted in the story that I want, that feels good to me. I focused on the version of him talking to me in my mind that loves me, values me, wants me, and tells me so. And that's the reality I'm creating for myself. That's the one that feels good. That's the story I'm persisting in because I know it's pushing out, it's pushing out, it's pushing out, it's pushing out. He's already showing me evidence of that. I just got to keep staying in the story. So, this is the choice you have, is when shit is in your 3D, you're either going to notice that it's not working or pay attention to all the things you wish were different, or you're going to keep paying attention to the little things that you start seeing to change and shift, giving you proof, one, everyone is you pushed out, and two, that the contents of your mind are starting to conform your 3D. See, your 3D is malleable because whatever you're focusing on in your mind that you're persistent in, your 3D world has to rearrange itself to recreate the same picture that you're persisting in your mind. And when I say picture, I also mean the words, the story, because every time you affirm a story, you're naturally creating imagery in your mind as you're saying the story. So your 3D has to move to match what is dominant in your mind. That's why it's only important what's dominant in your mind. And as your 3D is shifting, see, mine is being recreated, right? Mine is starting to shift in my favor. I just have to keep persisting so it can keep rearranging itself on the outside. And this is why we don't have to do anything, because he's changing his views. It's really me changing his views because everyone is you pushed out. But this is what it's about. Like, his views of things are changing, and they're going to be about me and in my favor, and they already are. So I just have to keep persisting in the story and the picture in my mind of what I want to experience so that my 3D world can keep rearranging itself to line up and match that picture. And that's what you have to do. See, we get partial imprints in our mind faster with certain things than others. So that's why we see that manifestation come in, right? Because there isn't this long, drawn out opposing story against it, which is why it comes in quick. So that's why you have to keep staying persistent so that you're imprinting your subconscious mind, because when your subconscious mind gets the full imprint, that's when everything manifests in your favor. When we get the subconscious mind imprinted with some things and not others, that's when we get these partial manifestations, right? We'll see them conforming, we'll see some changes, we'll see some fluctuation in our favor, but it isn't consistent enough or fully yet what we want. But you still have to keep persisting in what you want because you're still imprinting your subconscious mind. So if you've already imprinted your subconscious mind partially, you're going to imprint your subconscious mind fully at some point. So don't give the fuck up. So it's okay if you react to your 3D, you're human, but understand what that means when it's happening, and then do what you need to do to get back in the swing of things so that you can keep imprinting the story onto your subconscious of what you want to project out and then have reflected back to you, because that is what is going to rearrange your 3D. This is why the 3D doesn't matter. It'll affect us sometimes, but it really doesn't matter. It can change overnight. It could change in a week. It can change in a day, because all you're doing, the magic and the power that we have within us, is focusing on the story and picture we want to experience in our reality. And then the 3D does all the movement for us to match it. See, we don't have to look at the 3D and say, oh, I want that, and then change everything within to match what's outside of us. It's actually the other way around. It's, okay, what I want to experience in my life. All right, let me create that image in my mind, that story in my mind. Let me just reaffirm that and imprint my subconscious mind constantly, all day long, every day. And we do that when we shift our states, right? When you're shifting your state, words will help you feel something different. So when you're affirming a story, when you're intentionally affirming a story, and you're focused on what you want to manifest, you will feel different. So you're shifting into a new concept of self, you're shifting into a new state, a new reality just by doing that. And so the more you do that, then that is what's being imprinted on your subconscious mind. Your subconscious starts to say, oh, this is really who she is. Oh, this is really the experience she's having. It can't tell the difference if you're actually living that way or not, if it's just in your mind or it's on the outside of you. So what happens is it's believing this, it's thinking this, it's affirming this, it's shifting everything on the outside to match what the fuck is dominant on the inside. So when you react, you just get back on the wagon, you keep doing what you need to do. You just have to keep imprinting your subconscious mind until you get the full experience that you want. And that's just the fucking game. So start looking as evidence to prove everyone as you pushed out. If you can look at it negatively too, like, okay, this shit does work. So what do I want instead? Find little easy things like the my baby comment. I had no resistance against that. I had no opposing thoughts to that. I just picked a nice experience that I wanted with him, and boom, it fucking came in quick. And it made me feel good too. Like, these are the things that boost your confidence throughout this process, because I was like, fuck, man, that shit came in quick. And it was more than I expected. It wasn't the scene. The scene that I focused on in my mind was this one incident when he kissed me on my forehead and said, "Oh, my baby." Like, it was so sweet and tender. That's why I like that scene. But I didn't get that, did I? No, I got fucking him saying it to me like 8 times in like less than 10 minutes, which to me was even more than what that scene was. And this is what's so cool with this shit is like, we're over here affirming what we want, but we're gonna get even fucking better. Like, I had a better experience with him spending the night at my house. You know what I mean? I had this beautiful cuddle time with him, this amazing time that he and I haven't shared in a really long time. That was an experience I didn't even see coming. You know, I had no idea I would get the office right next door to him. I had no idea that all these things would line up the way that they did and that he would be okay with this and initiate this. And now I'm in this dope ass fucking office next to this amazing person that I'm manifesting, you know, to spend the rest of my life with. So like, it's a fucking win-win, you know? So this is just what I'm saying, is that it will show up better than we even fucking imagine in our mind, which makes it even more exciting, because it's like, oh, it's gonna be even better than I could fucking imagine. So don't give up, keep persisting, focus on your concept of self, keep imprinting your subconscious mind with what you want to experience, and trust and know that everyone is you pushed out. Nothing is separate from you. You're fucking the operant power. You are in control of your reality. And get excited. Get excited for finding the evidence that this shit is working in your favor, and knowing that I keep imprinting, even if the partials are showing up, it's well on its way. And have fun. Don't worry if you react. Just jump back as quick as you can, and it's all okay. So I had an amazing time with you this week. I hope that you felt the same way. I really love the feedback I'm getting about the podcast. Everybody's so fucking amazing. Again, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor who is kind enough to donate to my podcast monthly. If that's something you're interested in, you can look at the listener support button. It'll tell you the different options you have where you can set up a reoccurring payment to support my podcast. If not, that is a-okay too. If you're interested in email coaching or buying my Manifest Your SP Back and How to Keep Them for Good online course, I have that available. The links are in the show notes. I also have one-on-one private coaching sessions as well as group coaching sessions. Those can be found on my website. If not, I love you all, and I will see you. Go love on yourself. Focus on your self-concept. Have fun with this shit. Test everyone as you pushed out, and I will see you next week.